More important, however, scholarship shows that Vulcan is the extra-biblical version of the biblical story of the fall of Lucifer to the earth in the person of Satan. And most scholars in this field tell us Vulcan, Satan, same identity. The biblical devil is the Masonic Vulcan. So, if the number 77, on September 11, 2001, therefore pointed to revenge upon the United States by the royal bloodline descendants of Lamech, then they were following in the footsteps of Tubal-Cain indeed, releasing the seething energies of Lucifer and the strength of Vulcan or Satan, to whom human sacrifices have to be made. Why? Because movement through the Twin Towers was necessary now to initiate the culmination of the new Atlantis or the New World Order. Now, of course, let me jump forward. Some believe that there has been an occult hand operating in the United States towards a New World Order long before 9/11. For more than 200 years, in fact. And that it can be clearly seen in those signatures of the order upon the country's most famous symbols and landmarks. Let me give you, for instance, of all of the Masonic symbols that date to or associate with the founding of America, 33rd degree Freemason Manly P. Hall again. And by the way, Manly Hall was not just a Freemason. I forget how many thousands of volumes he wrote, hundreds of volumes, how many thousands of lectures he gave, and was considered and is considered probably the greatest philosopher in Freemasonry that ever lived. So here was a man who was qualified to say what he did, and he viewed the Great Seal of the United States of America as the highest signature of occult planning by Freemasons. And here's what he said. He called it, quote, the signature of this exalted body, unseen and for the most part unknown. And then he went on to say the unfinished pyramid upon its reverse side is a trestle board, setting forth symbolically the task to the accomplishment of which the United States government was dedicated from the day of its inception, end quote. Besides Manly Hall, late scholars who recognize the occult symbolism on the Great Seal as pointing to potentially Hall's secret destiny of America included Rhodes scholar James H. Billington, Harvard professor Charles Eliot Norton, who actually described it as hardly other than an emblem of a Masonic fraternity. How's that for a description of the Great Seal of the United States? And even 33rd degree Freemason and noted author James D. Carter, who was a famous Freemasonic author who inadvertently confirmed all of this as well when he admitted that the Masonic symbolism on the Great Seal is clearly known whenever, and I love the way he says this, whenever, quote, an informed Mason examines the Great Seal. I guess that's the difference between a lower degree and a higher degree. And yet for all of the volumes, folks, that was written in the early years about the arcane meaning behind the obvious symbols on the Great Seal of the United States, it was not until the 1930s, and this perhaps by providence, that the significance of the Great Seal of the United States started finding its defining moments. This happened when occult-minded 32nd degree Freemason Henry Wallace, remember him? The Secretary of Agriculture for the United States in 1934, became intrigued with the meaning behind the Great Seal. Now, Wallace had been a disciple of Agni Yogi Society founder and theosophist Nicholas Roerich, whose devotion to mysticism back then all broiled around their belief within this occult society that we were on the verge, or at least their generation would set in motion the movement towards a mystical earthly order that would even have, and here's where transhumanism may come in, that would even have a new breed of people unlike you and I. All of that came to light when Wallace ran as vice president in the 1940 presidential election, and somehow the Republicans got their hands on a series of letters that had been written by Wallace to Nicholas Roerich in the 1930s, addressing him as Dear Guru, and talking about the anticipation that he felt for the breaking of the new day. That was this time when this mythical kingdom was going to arrive on earth. Well, the Democrats barely kept that information from the public, and Wallace went on to become the 33rd Vice President of the United States under the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt, himself a 32nd degree Freemason with an equal thirst for mysticism. Though it was Roosevelt who had set in motion the push to get the Great Seal of the United States upon the $1 bill, it was actually Wallace who thought there was something more here, and thought their generation represented something more here, thought that this was a prophecy, and that somehow it was related to the administration of Franklin D. Roosevelt. And in fact, what's now known is that Wallace, they viewed the Great Seal as a prophecy of this New World Order, but they saw the eye hovering above this unfinished pyramid as a Masonic symbol of the grand architect of the universe. And that the kingdom they were trying to build could only go forward when the grand architect of the universe returned. And this would be fitted atop the unfinished pyramid. And then we would have the New World Order. Well, what's now known is that they were actually trying to bring this Messiah forward. Some of this is a little bit almost off the wall here. Meaning, well, let me tell you what Wallace wrote in his memoirs. Am I mesmerizing you? Wake up. Look, you had enough time earlier to get up and get some blood stimulating through the gluteus maximus. You can at least make it 30 more minutes through my lecture. Amen. If not, maybe wiggle a little bit. Here's what Wallace wrote. It will take a more definite recognition. This is in his memoirs. It's kind of spooky when you think we have people like this running our government, isn't it? It will take a more definite recognition of the grand architect of the universe before the apex stone, that is the capstone of the pyramid, is finally fitted into place. And this nation, in the full strength of its power, is in position to assume leadership among the nations in inaugurating the new order of the ages, end quote. Well, finding or making a more definite recognition, they were looking for him. In fact, both of these men, Roosevelt and Wallace, were fascinated with the idea of a new breed of people, new Atlanteans for the new Atlantis, similar to the contemporaneous exploration by Hitler for the Aryan Superman. And they believed that their super people were going to be led by an earthly Messiah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if this supernatural leader was to be the incarnation of the Masonic god Osiris, the body or DNA, something, may have been being kept in a coffin, cryptically referred to in correspondence between Wallace and Nicholas Roerich. How many people in the government knew about this? I don't know, but on March 12, 1933, Wallace wrote to Roerich, and here's what he said, quote, "Dear Guru, I have been thinking of you holding the casket, the sacred, most precious casket, and I have thought of the new country going forward to meet the 7 stars under the sign of the 3 stars, end quote." Well, I go into this in my new book explaining what that all means, the 7 stars, the 3 stars, and even the fact that there is some evidence that something may have even been removed from the Giza Plateau. Even Egypt's leading Dr. Zahi Hawass, if you remember in recent years, thought that he found the tomb of Osiris.